I've got a bit of a doozy for you tonight. It's not conclusive, but it's disturbing. It's a follow-up to my video from yesterday about the lab-grown meat, and I was saying that they use stem cells to grow this meat, and I implicated the Impossible Burger in that. And I have to correct it. The Impossible Burger insists that it does not use stem cells, and it never has even tried to use stem cells. So, I stand corrected. At least the official record stands corrected. There are many meat companies using stem cells out there. Memphis Meats is just one example. And they insist that they don't want to be called fake meat because they are using real meat. They are growing real meat. We are making real meat, seafood, and that's the whole point. Here's the guy, by the way, that founded Memphis Meats. That's him there. Their product is not yet available, so they say. Impossible Foods, on the other hand, is in restaurants. It does just now have FDA approval. It didn't before, but it was still allowed to put its meat in restaurants and all kinds of food products across the whole world. It's been doing so for a while because, get this, it doesn't need FDA approval. If they change an ingredient in food, they don't need to get approval for that. And this is considered an ingredient in food. This genetically modified stuff they make, that it's genetically modified yeast. They say they put soy root in it, and it turns into something that they say is identical to the stuff in meat. Identical, genetically. That's what they say. Now you decide for yourself. Does that mean it's meat? If it's identical to meat genetically? I don't know. Here you will see Impossible Foods bleeding burgers to make grocery store debut in 2019. You can see here it's red. When you fry it, it turns brown, just like blood. Here's an article from Fast Company. This stuff here, that's the heme. That's what they call it. Heme, hemoglobin. It's actually called Le hemoglobin, Le hemoglobin. She says it was made with a protein found in the roots of soybean plants, but it has the same slightly metallic taste and the aroma of blood. It's the innovation that has given the Impossible Burger its meteoric rise. Soybeans and a genetically modified yeast into which they put the soybean root, and they do whatever they do, and it comes out like that, they say, that red liquid that looks and tastes and smells just like blood. Here, by the way, is a soybean root. It is not red. I don't know how it turns red. I thought to myself, maybe the yeast is red. So I searched for red yeast, and there's something called red yeast rice, and maybe that's where it comes from. I don't know. And this is a privately held company. This ingredient doesn't need to be approved by the FDA. It doesn't need to be. So we don't know the process. It's obviously a patented process. So I wonder if anybody has ever gone to look, or if anybody knows for sure what goes into this stuff. The FDA doesn't need to approve it. However, Impossible Foods approved itself. Yes, that's right. There is a process by which it can approve itself. There's this thing called generally accepted as safe or something. Generally recognized as safe. You see here? GRAS. And so the FDA rejected it, but it didn't matter. They could still sell it. And still, Patrick Brown, the guy who founded Impossible Foods, says, Brown has disagreed with some of what the FDA has asked the company to do. It's a garbage test anyway, so who cares, he said about the safety test. He's calling it embarrassing and a joke. The safety test the FDA wants the company to undertake are embarrassing and a joke. It's a garbage test, says this guy, Patrick Brown. Who is Patrick Brown? Patrick Brown is chief executive and founder of Impossible Foods, a professor emeritus in the Department of Biochemistry at Stanford University. Brown is co-founder of the Public Library of Science, inventor of the DNA microarray, and a former investigator at Howard Hughes Medical Institute. That Public Library of Science was founded in part by the Open Society Institute in 2001. The Public Library of Science began in 2001. Patrick Brown and Michael Eisen, Stanford and University of California, Berkeley, and the Budapest Open Access Initiative, convened by the Open Society Institute. So there's a George Soros connection. What else is funny about Patrick Brown? Well, Stanford is home of behavioral science extraordinaire Christine Blasey Ford, works at Stanford, and they have a program where they refer people to the CIA from there, I believe. Also, Patrick Brown's father was in the CIA. He told his kids that he worked for the State Department and the Defense Department, but when Patrick was older, he found out his dad actually worked for the CIA. I don't have any screenshots for you, but he also got funding from DARPA for a couple of projects. All you have to do is Google DARPA and Patrick O. Brown. You'll find them. They come up. And I think there was something else. Oh, yes. When asked what was next for him in an interview here, he says he was going to do his sabbatical and he was going to devote himself for a year for trying to find the maximum extent possible to eliminate animal farming on planet Earth. He says animal farming is by far the most environmentally destructive identified practice on the planet. Funny, wasn't that, tar sands oil last week? Probably. They're always changing the most destructive activity on the planet, aren't they? And it's always something we really need, like heat, energy, food, water. So, yeah, he continues here. And if you think I'm bullshitting, he says, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, whose job is to promote agricultural development, published a study, not knowing what they were getting into, blah, blah, blah. He talks about how that inspired his decision to take it was actually an 18-month sabbatical to figure out how to rid the planet of animal farming. And he's right, the UN puts a very high priority on that. Look here, the UN environment, tackling the world's most urgent problem, meat. So I had all kinds of questions, and I was going to dig into everything. You see, here's a list of the other partners in his venture at Impossible Foods, and they're a curious bunch. Colsa Ventures, I don't know that one. Bill Gates, I know that one. Google Ventures, I know that one. And Open Philanthropy Project, I'm pretty sure that's Soros. All these other ones, I bet, have amazingly interesting people behind them as well. I would love to know, but unfortunately, I got too shocked to keep researching because as I was reading article after article, combing through for little details that might tell me how do they get the soy protein to turn red. I'm really curious about that. I'm really curious because that's an animal thing. As I was reading all these articles, I found out, I came across a detail. It was the address of their 63,000 square foot facility in Silicon Valley, California. And I thought, oh great, I'm going to do a street view on this factory because I wanted to show a picture of it and show how it's not much more healthy for the environment than a farm is. So I did. Here it is. See, here's the address inside the article. I Googled it. I copied and pasted it. And there's the building. Click on it. There I am, standing out front of it. It's ugly. It's white, nondescript, no windows, no name. So I'll turn around. Let's look what else is on this street. And oh my God, Do you see that? Can you read that? Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is directly across the street. It's directly across the street from Impossible Foods. I can't describe the feeling that I had when I saw that. Look, I am not saying that this is proof of anything. Technically, this is meaningless. This is not evidence of anything other than a coincidence. Everybody, upon hearing this story yesterday, everybody who's been researching this kind of thing, brought to mind Pepsi. You know, the company Pepsi has been caught using aborted fetus tissue to experiment with flavor enhancing. You can look up the articles. I didn't get one. They're out there. And people were thinking, maybe that's what's in this burger. Maybe that's where the stem cells come from. Now remember, Impossible Foods says it does not use stem cells, okay? Absolutely not. However, what are the chances of this? What is Planned Parenthood doing in the middle of an industrial park? Because that's what that is. If you go and Google that address yourself, it's a total industrial park. So there's a Planned Parenthood right across the street, and I felt so sick. Clearly, this is not evidence of anything, any connection whatsoever. But I couldn't keep researching. First of all, I don't want to find it. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't want to find it. And I don't want to get sued. And I don't want to get anything. Bleeding burgers. Red hemoglobin, identical to what comes out of animals. White soy root. A spooky CIA, DARPA, UN, Soros affiliated founder, a privately held company with proprietary patents on a process we don't know has been inspected in a windowless factory across the street from Planned Parenthood. I'll leave it at that. I'm going to stop talking now. Please like the video if you liked it, share it if you found it interesting. I would love a comment. And until next time, peace out.